A good laugh and a long sleep are the two best cures for everything. Did you get that? Yeah, a good laugh and a long sleep are the two best cures for everything. So I'm really grateful to be here today to share a couple of nuggets, and they literally are, I want to sprinkle just a few ideas, basically to give you some clues as to how to sleep better. Now, I want to give you the why today of sleep. For those of you who know who Simon Sinek, he's a great thought leader in the field of leadership. You've got to start with the why. Because if you don't know why sleep is really, really, really important for you, you'll never change what you do. Because we are creatures of habit. Once you have that why, the how will show up. What I want to do, my mission today, is for you to put first things first. And first things first means sleep. I want you to put sleep up here and reorganize your life around it. Now, does anybody recognize these pictures? I'm probably showing my age here. I'll give you a hint. We're back to 1986. Chernobyl, yes. Reactor 4, Chernobyl. Number 2, January 1986. That's the Challenger, the space shuttle. Bad takeoff. It's literally exploded. I remember seeing those 7 astronauts lose their lives. What about number 3? Number 3, that's oil, by the way, in Prince William Sound. There's a hint. Exxon Valdez. Do you know what was the common link among these 3 events, these 3 disasters? Anyone got any ideas? It's a word beginning, well, it was actually underlying these. It's a word beginning with the letter F. It's got 7 letters. Anyone got any clues? Fatigue, yeah? All of these events were due to fatigue. The guys in Reactor 4 were working long, they were working 13-hour shifts. Senior managers at ground control, the space shuttle, they were completely sleep deprived. They were under the pump, they had deadlines. They made bad decisions about O-rings, how they function at cold temperatures. Not good at all. The Exxon Valdez disaster, she hit a reef, 9 cargo holds were punctured, millions of barrels of crude oil were spilled into the Sound. Here's a question, I got 3 questions for you. Have you ever been underslept? Yeah? Have you ever had 2 nights of bad sleep in a row? I'm sure you're probably saying, yeah. Next question, have you ever been stressed? And I'd say most of you would probably say, yeah. And the third one is, have you ever worked a very long day where you've been awake and kind of maybe working for 16 hours? Yeah, there was a tick there. You know what, when those 3 boxes are ticked, potentially disastrous things can happen. And what I want to share with you guys is that whilst we look at disasters like this, you might look at these pictures and say, well, that would never happen to me. But actually it could. And what I want to do is share with you that this friend of mine, her son, when he was 21, he was still on his P plates. He shared with his mum that he'd had a bit of a crash with his car. He was reversing into an underground shopping center. It clipped the rear end of the car on one of those pillars. And she said to him, what was going on? And he said, number 1, he said, I've had a lot on my mind. There's stress tick, yeah? And in that time, he was getting up at the crack of dawn. He was working before uni, and then he was working after uni. He had all these jobs. So was he working long hours? Tick, number 2. And I said to her, how's he been sleeping? And she said, oh, not really, really well. So what's really interesting is that he's no different from what happened in these 3 big stories. All right, now I'm going to give you a number that actually is interesting. The Centre for Sleep Research here in South Australia did some comparative studies, and they looked at the effects of being awake versus the effects of drinking alcohol. And what they found was really, really interesting. If you've been awake for 17 hours, it is the equivalent of having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05, by which point you're over the limit. If you push that out to 20 hours awake, it's the equivalent of having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08. Now, at that, you are 5 times more likely to crash your vehicle. So what I'm talking about here, guys, is safety, number 1. You've got to keep yourself safe. So what's really, really important is to ask yourself, how many hours have I been awake? Because that's going to give you some clues as to whether you're going to be okay or not okay. Now, what's interesting is how much sleep is enough. Does anybody know what the recommended number of hours is we should be getting? On average, we should be aiming for 8 hours in bed. You know what? 7 hours means you're going to be in the game. But you know what? If you want to win the game, you got to have 8 hours. 8 hours sleep. You should aim to spend 8 hours in bed each night.